welcome back to the Tune Project. You might have heard of the classic tune Midnight on the Water, which is a beautiful fiddle tune that's been popularized by the likes of Mark O'Connor and other fiddle players. But generally when that tune is played, it's in what we call cross tuning. So it's not in our standard G-D-A-E fiddle tuning. The strings are often changed, they're altered so that it's in a different tuning. What I'm going to be demonstrating today is how to play Midnight on the Water in standard tuning, in case you're unfamiliar with cross tuning, or in case you want to still be able to play the tune but don't want to have to alter the tuning of your strings. And sometimes this can come in handy if you're, let's say, performing and you're playing a set of tunes that are in standard tuning and you don't want to have to cross tune just for one tune. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then just keep watching. So in the beginning clip of this video, you probably noticed that I was incorporating a lot of double stops into this tune, and that's because, I mean, generally if you've heard this tune, it's pretty much all double stops, and it sounds really beautiful when it's just played with long, beautiful double stops, open strings, things like that. So we are going to be adding those in later on in the video, but to start with, just for the sake of learning the melody of the tune, I'll just show you on single strings. So we are starting on open D here. Okay, so you notice we had that double up bow. That wasn't quite a hooked bow. There was no hard separation in between the notes, but there was a very soft separation. So it's almost kind of like we're slurring two notes, but it happens to be the same note. So not a tie, not a hooked bow, just generally just adding a little bit of a soft separation in between those two F sharps. And then we ended on an A, and then we're going to start the next little set of notes on an up bow on open A. Okay, so a nice little walk down to first finger E on the D string, and then next. Okay, so a couple things going on in there. If we take everything away and just are left with the basic melody line, the basic notes, it's not terribly difficult. But then we add a little turn on the B, so we're slurring B to C natural to B and then A on an up bow. Alright, and then next, when we had those notes on the D string, you might have noticed I used my fourth finger for that A, and the reason for that, instead of just going to an open A, is because later when we add in the double stops, we're going to use our open A as a drone string. So we're going to play our fourth finger A and open A together to create a unison chord. So what we would do at this point is we would go back and play all of that together once again. So that is the A section. We're going to go back and repeat it. I'm going to play it for you so you can see how everything comes together, and then we'll move on to the B section. So nice and easy in terms of the tempo. You don't have to rush or anything like that. Lots of scales going back and forth, so it should feel fairly natural under your fingers. Now we're moving on to the B section, which involves a little bit more of the higher range of the fiddle. So let's keep that in mind as we're going forward. So we start on an open A. And the bowing here is important. So if you notice, I did up, 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 down, up, 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 down. So once you get those notes, if you're able to add in that bowing, that'll really add a nice little boost of power when we do add those double stops. So up, 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 down, up, 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 down, okay? And then again. So that time it was up, 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 down for the first set of notes, and then separate bows for the following. Okay, as we're coming down, we didn't need that same amount of power because the phrase kind of goes like this, and we end up dying down just a little bit, where that power that we used before isn't as necessary. All right, so this next phrase that I'm gonna play is a little bit longer. So if you need to pause this video and break it up into 2 parts, that's fine. But for the sake of not breaking up the melody or causing too much confusion with the rhythm, I am going to play a good chunk of this melody here. So this next phrase includes sort of faster moving notes just a little bit, so be sure to listen closely for that. And also it is a lot of scales, so keep that in mind. We're just kind of coming down and utilizing our knowledge of scales. So here we go. Okay, and notice we had the long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short rhythm happening. Excuse my cats, they're running around and playing like crazies right now. So if you hear any background noise or scratching, that's what that is. And then next we have our G natural, which we spend a little bit of time on, and this is kind of the high point of this section. So. And then we come down and the phrase kind of tapers off again. And then we end with this beautiful ending that we've heard before. So let's do that next. So same exact ending that we saw in the A section. We still have the option of adding that turn in there and also using our 4th finger. So at this point what we would do is we would go back and play all of that B section once again. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that for you just like I did with the A section so you can hear how it all sounds put together. So at this point you may be wondering what's going on with all of these different bowings. Maybe you've noticed that there's a lot going on with the bowings. If you don't get all of them, that's okay. I would just mainly pay attention to the ones that I mentioned specifically in this video, because those are the ones that are really gonna give you that, you know, extra little punch when needed. So if there's any other bowings that I've done that you're like, wait, slow down, go back, I wasn't sure what to do, that's fine. You don't have to follow all of those. And if you do want to catch every single bowing that I did, you can go back and kind of, after you've learned the notes, once you've learned the notes and feel comfortable with those, go back and try to catch those bowings. But like I said, if it doesn't all have to be exactly the way that I did it, I would just mainly focus on the ones that I mentioned specifically. Alright, so here we go with the double stops. Now this is the exciting part, because once we've learned the notes, that's where the fun begins. We can really take this to the next level. So starting with the A section, since we have most of the melody, well, all of the melody in the A section falls between the D string and the A string, guess what? We get to use our double stops on those strings as well. So we don't have to move our bow actually at all from that plane as long as we're in the A section. So I'm just gonna give a demonstration of how this would sound slowly with those double stops, and you can see if you can follow along here. So here we go. a nice other dimension to this melody that we have here. Kind of fills everything out and makes it sound really supported with the melody. So that's how we would approach the A section, just making sure that everything's nice and smooth. You're keeping your bow within those two strings and not teetering back and forth between strings. So if that's a technique that you need to work on, maybe visit one of my double stop videos and kind of brush up on your technique there. But otherwise, let's move on to the B section. So here, this is where things get a little bit more complicated in terms of double stops, just because we are including the higher range. So we are gonna have a little bit more jumping around, but that's okay. It's gonna sound really neat in the end. So here's an example of what the B section would sound like slow. Alright, so hopefully now you see what I was talking about with that bowing, and you can really tell and start to hear how, now that we've added these double stops, how much fuller everything sounds and that power that comes from the specific bowings and slurs that we were using. So there's one point in the B section that I want to talk about specifically. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the spot where I added another note on top of the existing double stop. So instead of just playing a drone string, I actually added a note, and that part of the B section was where we have the G. So rather than playing A, adding that drone string together with that G, because G and A are right next to each other in the musical alphabet, that's gonna cause some dissonance. It doesn't exactly sound pretty to the ear, but if we play D instead, it in tune, then it sounds nice, and it kind of adds a little bit of dimension to that chord, kind of rounds it out a little bit, and just complements that G. So if you want, then you definitely can do that. If you feel comfortable with playing two notes on two different strings at the same time, go for it. If you're like, oh, I'm not quite there yet, I'm not so sure that I want to try that, don't worry about it. You can just play G on its own and it'll be just fine. Alright guys, so that was Midnight on the Water in standard tuning. I really hope you enjoyed learning this one. Congratulations for making it to the end of this video, and I'm so excited to hear from you. If you enjoyed this one, leave a comment down below, give this video a like. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I make videos like this weekly, so go ahead and hit that red subscribe button below and the bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Alright guys, well that's it from me. Thanks again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Happy practicing.